Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. MALLOR GRODNER Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, lawmg.com. The IU School of Education, preparing teachers, scholars, and administrators to improve teaching in Indiana and around the world. education.indiana.edu. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Police seized millions of dollars last year they say was tied to criminal activity. But what happens to that money is a source of major controversy.
I've got a couple people on staff as a result of being able to continually have funds in the forfeiture budget line.
Ahead in part 2 of our series on civil forfeiture, we'll explain where the money goes and why some say that needs to change. The governor says the I-69 project will be finished ahead of schedule thanks to an infusion of $600 million. Plus, a new type of scholarship is inspiring students to think about college and the expense of college much sooner.
It really is changing the dynamic, and it's having students start to think about it earlier and also exposing them to schools they might not have ever thought of before.
Those stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Police across Indiana seized more than $3 million worth of property and cash during fiscal year 2017 that they believe was involved in suspected crimes. Prosecutors and law enforcement agencies say civil forfeiture empowers them to take the fruits of crime and use some of the proceeds to further investigations. But as Barbara Brozier reports in part 2 of our series on civil forfeiture, critics say where the proceeds go creates conflicts of interest and may even violate the state constitution.
During the fall of 2011 in Muncie, first responders were overwhelmed.
We were having multiple overdoses. The EMTs and the first responders were averaging about 2 a day.
They were overdosing on bath salts and spice. It was part of a large drug ring involving several convenience stores in Delaware County. On top of selling the drugs, court documents say those involved mixed money from the deals with proceeds from legitimate sales at the stores. So several police agencies started an undercover operation that lasted nearly 9 months.
A large group of law enforcement agencies came together to serve warrants on those simultaneously. We froze bank accounts simultaneously, because we knew there would be telephone calls really fast. And it was a good deal of money.
In addition to filing criminal charges against those involved, the county started a civil forfeiture case in an attempt to keep cash, property, and cars seized during the investigation. While the court ordered some of that be returned to the defendants, it also said tens of thousands of dollars should be forfeited. The money was divided between Muncie Police, the sheriff's office, the private law firm hired to prosecute the case, and the prosecutor's office. Delaware County Prosecutor Jeff Arnold spoke to a legislative study committee last year about the power of civil forfeiture. He says he used the money from that case to make audio-visual improvements in several circuit courtrooms.
Ever since that day, it's been very satisfying to me to go into court when I do major felonies and remember that that equipment and those drop downs came from someone who was selling drugs and killing people on our streets. No tax dollars.
But some legislators argue the way Indiana allows the funds to be dispersed creates a major conflict of interest.
We have to separate where the money goes from the people actually doing the seizing of the property. Because I think it breeds cynicism amongst the public when they see that prosecutors and law enforcement directly profit from the assets that are seized.
And there are questions about whether the practice violates the state's constitution, which says the Common School Fund should receive money from the fines assessed for breaches of penal laws of the state and from all forfeitures which may accrue. Several Marion County residents are suing the prosecutor, police, and mayor, arguing the counties ignored that statute for years and instead distributed all proceeds to local law enforcement efforts. Data from the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council shows police seized nearly $3.4 million worth of cash and property statewide during fiscal year 2017, but less than 2% of that went to the Common School Fund.
And that is why some states have reformed their laws to say that either those funds ought to go to the state treasury, where there's much more accountability and decision-making as to how those funds will be used by elected members of the state legislature, or to specific public purposes like education.
Former Attorney General Greg Zeller weighed in on the controversy over where the money should go 8 years ago. In an opinion, he wrote, "A proceeding under Indiana's forfeiture law is civil in nature, and it is only fines and forfeitures from criminal proceedings that must be paid into the Common School Fund. It's something the Indiana Supreme Court will consider when it hears the Marion County lawsuit. But legislators say they've already addressed some of the problems with Indiana's civil forfeiture laws through Senate Bill 99, which passed earlier this year.
We went round and round about how that might be changed and how it might serve our state a little bit better. And we came up with what I think was a pretty good product.
Among other things, the new law is more specific about how proceeds from seizures should be distributed. Before, the law allowed police and prosecutors to use that money to reimburse agencies for their investigation costs. But law enforcement said it was too hard to determine those exact costs, and in many cases, took all of the money. Now, the money first goes to pay attorney's fees if an outside law firm is hired to prosecute the case. Then a third of the remaining proceeds goes into a county's forfeiture fund to offset investigation expenses. 85% of the money left over after that goes to law enforcement agencies.
Which sounds like a really big number, and it is a big number. But these investigations are expensive.
That leaves 15% of the proceeds for the Common School Fund. Bray argues that's more money than it was getting under the old law because oftentimes forfeiture proceedings matched investigatory expenses.
But the one piece that then is in front of the Indiana Supreme Court is deciding whether or not that is legal. Obviously, if the Supreme Court has an opinion that it's not proper, then we'll go back to the drawing board.
Arnold is hopeful. Changes already made to Indiana's law will allow his office to keep using some of the proceeds from civil forfeiture. He says he understands people's concerns about the ethical problems.
There are too many horror stories, again, out there about prosecutors throwing Christmas parties with forfeiture money or buying things that don't help fight crime or drugs. I'm sure that happens occasionally, and it's wrong. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, okay? Change those type of behaviors and continue using the forfeiture money to offset these budget restraints that have hit the smaller communities ever since we had circuit breaker.
Reporter Barbara Brozier is here to explain this a little bit more. You mentioned Senate Bill 99. Is there any more changes coming as a result of that bill?
So many changes, Joe.
Yeah.
But one of the big ones deals with due process. Basically, under the old law, a prosecutor had up to 6 months before they even had to file paperwork with the court for a forfeiture. And what was happening in some cases, legislators say, is let's say they took someone's car. It's stored for 6 months. It accumulates all of these fees. So even if the prosecutor decides not to file probable cause to keep that car, it often has more fines on it than the property is worth. Under this new law, what the big change is 7 days after the seizure versus 6 months. Now it's 7 days that they have to file paperwork to keep the car or they have to give it back.
Now you mentioned Delaware County hired a private law firm for the case. Is that something that happens on a regular basis?
It sounds surprising, but it's something that happens a lot here in Indiana County. It's allowed under the law, and some people say it's not a good arrangement. Critics of civil forfeiture say it's not a good arrangement, and here's why. A lot of those private attorneys who are hired on to prosecute these cases, they have what's called a contingency agreement, and what that means is they would get a portion of the proceeds from a civil forfeiture if it goes through. So critics say, hey, they have an incentive when they're really supposed to be a neutral government party. They have an incentive because they could get some money if the forfeiture goes through.
We just have less than 30 seconds. How does Indiana compare to other states when it comes to civil forfeiture?
An expert told me he really thinks it's baby steps that they've done when it comes to reforms. The biggest thing is they don't require a criminal conviction in order to then seize property. And they say that's wrong. The government should not be able to take property from someone who is not deemed a criminal by the courts.
Barbara, thank you very much. Additional money from the state means the final section of Interstate 69 will be complete 3 years earlier than expected. As Tyler Lake reports, it's one of several infrastructure improvements Governor Holcomb announced this week.
With construction of I-69 between Bloomington and Martinsville nearly 2 years behind schedule, the state is pouring money into the final leg of the project to speed up completion. Governor Eric Holcomb announced $1 billion in infrastructure improvements this week, and more than half of that money will go to I-69 between Martinsville and Indy. Holcomb says that means construction will be done by 2024 instead of 2027.
Long gone are the days in Indiana where we kick the can down the road. Now we're literally building the roads ahead of schedule and under budget.
Other projects include $100 million to expand internet access to rural areas, $90 million for connecting hiking and biking trails throughout the state, and $20 million to expand the number of nonstop flights from the Indianapolis airport to international destinations. Holcomb says the projects are about defining Indiana differently than ever before.
Which is going to better connect us as Hoosiers to one another. It's going to better connect us to the great outdoors. It's going to better connect us to world markets and destinations like never before.
The money comes from a 35% increase to toll rates for heavy vehicles on the Indiana Toll Road. The toll rate increase will take effect next month and will impact vehicles with 3 or more axles. Holcomb says drivers of passenger cars will not be subject to the fee increase. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Tyler Lake.
Now, Barbara Brosier joins us for headlines. She has the latest on this week's top stories.
Thanks, Joe. The teenager charged in the shooting at Noblesville West Middle School will admit to carrying out the attack at his next court hearing in November. The juvenile faces 11 charges, including 2 counts of attempted murder. He's accused of shooting teacher Jason Seaman and 13-year-old student Ella Whistler. The judge can decide to make him a ward of the Department of Corrections until rehab programs are complete or order psychological care. We're not naming the juvenile because he is a child. U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions spoke with urgency about an increase in overdoses due to fentanyl during a speech in Indianapolis yesterday. The highly addictive narcotic is causing a spike in drug deaths.
Even a small case, give it attention. See if you can't get that person to tell you where they got it. And let's go after them, and let's make a determined effort to reduce the supplies of fentanyl in this country and go up the chain as far as we possibly can.
President Trump recently denounced some of what Sessions described during that speech, which was making deals with lower-level offenders to help target higher-level criminals. School districts across Indiana recently received handheld metal detectors they requested from the state, but many of them are still sitting in boxes. That's because school boards must first approve policies dictating how administrators and resource officers will use them.
We have a concern about someone may have something on their person that could provide a safety risk or compromise safety. I want us to use those.
Nearly all of the state's school district requested the free metal detectors. Governor Eric Holcomb announced earlier this summer the state would make them available as part of its efforts to increase school safety. Vice President Mike Pence and Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats both deny writing an anonymous opinion piece about the Trump administration in the New York Times. The piece said an internal resistance was working to thwart some of Trump's efforts. The anonymous author attempted to assure Americans by saying, quote, "We fully recognize what is happening, and we are trying to do what's right, even when Donald Trump won't." Trump has ordered his aides to figure out who that author is. Indiana lawmakers aren't happy with some of the recommendations from an independent evaluation of the Department of Child Services. Indiana law says if DCS believes a child is in immediate danger, there must be an on-site assessment within 1 hour. Now, a proposed change based on the evaluator's report would increase that to 24 hours. DCS officials say the change would give managers needed flexibility. But Senator Aaron Houchin, a former case manager, says the 1 hour requirement is crucial.
To not have that set time frame to point to an immediate response time to check on that child within an hour gives way too much room for error.
Houchin suggests some DCS workers should be dedicated solely as investigators for the on-site assessments. The study committee will meet again later this month. The city of Bloomington is making plans for another deer cull at Griffey Nature Preserve, but this time local hunters will lead it. Grant funding would be used to train the hunters to participate in the cull, but the city would first have to make changes to the existing municipal hunting and firearm code. Last year, the city brought in a sharpshooting company to kill deer. That cull cost nearly $43,000. The Indiana State Board of Animal Health and industry experts are worried about a disease that could have a devastating impact on pork farmers. Multiple cases of African swine fever have been reported in China. Now, it's not been found in the United States, but it could still hurt Hoosier farmers.
When we make a diagnosis of a foreign animal disease like African swine fever, there'll immediately be trade barriers, so other countries will shut off some of our exports.
African swine fever is not harmful to humans, but it's highly contagious to pigs, and there's no vaccine to prevent it. The Indiana football team returns to Bloomington tomorrow for their first home game this year. Workers have been busy completing a $48 million South End Zone addition. It encloses the stadium into a bowl, creating a new front door and plaza facing 17th Street. And Joe, let's hope the weather holds out for that first home game.
I know, they say flash flood watch till Sunday, so we'll have to see. Thanks, Barbara. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Officials hope a rolling exhibit at the TC Steel Historic Site will drive more young people to visit. And a new way for high schoolers to earn college scholarships. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
The WTIU WFIU news team connects Indiana to the world. We bring you the top news of the day on radio, TV, and online. We round up the stories that have people talking each week and dig deep into the issues that affect your community the most. The WTIU WFIU news team is where you are and telling your story.
In a time of change, where can you find in-depth reporting and thoughtful analysis? Washington Week on PBS. Join moderator Robert Costa.
When I was at the Capitol this week, I encountered the same.
And a panel of award-winning journalists.
You're seeing a divided nation, and you're seeing.
For insights and perspective.
Tonight there was a key development in the
Senate. You won't find anywhere else.
What a week.
Washington Week.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. High school students can now earn money for getting good grades or visiting a college campus. They're called micro scholarships. The national organization Raise Me launched the idea 5 years ago. Lindsay Wright is here with more.
Hey, Joe. More than a dozen Indiana universities and colleges have partnered with Raise Me to offer prospective students micro scholarships. They can earn money in high school and then apply it towards their college expenses. With the increasing cost of higher education, Raise Me officials tout micro scholarships as a way to help students pay for school.
Christopher Pack is an artist, and it shows when you step into his room. You know, I started practicing and really started honing my skills with drawing, and that's how I was able to get this good.
His walls are lined with drawings. One of his favorite things to bring to life on paper, superheroes.
This is Deadpool. Everyone should know him by now. You know, they made movies about him.
So it's fitting that he plans to study visual and sports communications in college. Pack recently graduated as valedictorian from a small charter school in Indianapolis. But he says college wouldn't have been possible without micro scholarships.
With Raise Me, I was able to see all the achievements I went through, and I was said, you know what? Let me just put them in and see what I get. And I got like $7,370 just from putting all my achievements in.
Pack says it's easy. He created a profile on Raise Me and started following institutions that offer micro scholarships.
You just type in your email address and your password and everything like that, and yeah, you signed up.
From there, he added in his achievements from freshman to senior year and got an estimate from each school of how much money they would offer him. Students can receive money for good grades, volunteering, and participating in sports. More than 1 million high schoolers are using the free platform across the country, including about 25,000 in Indiana.
It really is changing the dynamic, and it's having students start to think about it earlier, and also exposing them to schools they might not have ever thought of before.
Pack committed to IUPUI. The school just partnered with Raise Me last year, but officials are already calling it a success.
So you're basically encouraging the student to do things that they need to do to really become college prepared anyway, but you're giving them sort of an allowance in these micro scholarships along the way, and it makes them feel actively engaged.
Indiana State University has been offering micro scholarships for a couple years. Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management Richard Toomey says higher education institutions used to focus their recruitment efforts on juniors and seniors, but he says micro scholarships allow them to do meaningful outreach earlier.
If a student comes and takes a college tour and actually registered through our admissions office and experiences campus for a day with us, we will actually award them a one-time $500 scholarship to actually enroll at Indiana State.
Although funds received through micro scholarships won't necessarily pay for a student's entire tuition, Lumina Foundation Strategy Director Haley Glover says it can be a good recruitment strategy. But she says universities can't stop there.
Being able to support students once they get to college is equally, if not more important than getting students to the door of the college.
Hodge says since the platform is so new, there's not much data. But he says some schools are seeing higher GPAs and students staying in school at a higher rate on average. And maybe most importantly, it encourages high schoolers to start thinking about their finances earlier.
The value of education has never really been focused on more than it is now. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about student debt, and so really finding the types of aid that can help students pay for college and college affordability is really important.
For Pack, he's always thought about the money. He knew his parents weren't in a position to pay for school. After receiving micro scholarships through Raise Me, he applied for more scholarships. And now his tuition costs are completely covered.
I just found what's out there, and Raise Me just kind of like was that push to say, hey, there's more out there. You just got to look for them and just apply.
Very interesting. Which students now benefit the most from these micro scholarships?
Well, it depends on the institution because each school can make the program what they want. So they could focus on low-income students, for example, or even rural populations. That's another example. The folks at Raise Me say obviously they want this to benefit all types of students. But one high school advisor I spoke with says she applauds the program, but it doesn't necessarily work for all students. The students in her district, more than 75% are receiving free or reduced lunch. She says with those students, they typically focus on more high-dollar funding.
So with our low-income scholars, obviously the first stop is with our FAFSA. And so the FAFSA is going to help them to identify whether they are receiving Pell Aid and all those different types of financial awards. Those are always going to trump any type of micro scholarships.
But students are still able to receive other scholarships and financial aid on top of the micro scholarships too.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. That's just like Christopher Pack's situation. So he received that $7,000 in micro scholarships, but then went on to find other money through other means. So that $7,000 was the minimum amount he was allotted from IUPUI. So Hodge with Raise Me says, yeah, there's other ways to pay for school, and this might not pay for the entire tuition, but he says this definitely can fill gaps for certain students.
Lindsay, thank you very much for that report.
You're welcome.
The TC Steel Historic Site in Brown County is rolling out a new permanent exhibit. It's a replica of the studio wagon Steel used to travel the Indiana countryside that will open up to visitors next month. Now, Program Director Kate Wetzel says the wagon is truly an interactive exhibit.
The goal is to have people be able to use their imaginations to play, to do it in an unsupervised way.
While the original wagon burned in a 1913 fire, Wetzel says they used descriptions from old newspaper articles to help recreate the structure. The new exhibit will open to the public on October 28th. And Lindsay, that's probably right during the peak of leaf season in Brown County. Should be beautiful.
Yeah, hopefully a lot cooler.
Yeah, and that's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber, the Giga City Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. MALLOR GRODNER Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, lawmg.com. The IU School of Education, preparing teachers, scholars, and administrators to improve teaching in Indiana and around the world. education.indiana.edu. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.